Welcome to Biblical Christian Content, where we like to keep the content biblical. Let's go.
It's in our nature. Don't care how tough we are. Don't care how successful we are. It's in our nature to, yes, worship.
I have to petition everyone that's watching this video. If you desire to help me reach more people with biblical truth, then do me a favor. At minimum, hit the like and hit the subscribe to generate more push to get biblical Christian content to more hearts, more minds, and more souls. Thank you. Enjoy the video.
Yeah.
The wild thing about the Bible is that it's thousands of years old and people are still reading it. They're still reading this thing that was the framework for civilization.
You know what that tells you? That people are born to worship. We're born to worship people.
There's probably I think they've isolated that part of like human psychology. That's like, it's something that we need.
Even the hardest man in the world will say, "Wow, you did a magnificent job. That was splendid," or whatever. It's in our nature. Don't care how tough we are. Don't care how successful we are. It's in our nature to, yes, worship.
Or like most like read book ever. It's pretty honestly amazing.
It's probably that, and then Harry Potter. Harry Potter's probably a strong second.
That's no cap.
Harry Potter might have the Bible beat.
When I look at,
We might want to look that up. Harry Potter might have the Bible beat.
Man, Joe Ro is the mega hater. Lol. Can't tell he has a bias.
Still G's up, they won't ease up. It's cool to even hate it on Jesus.
the Bible's interesting.
That's how
because
gangster that lady is.
everybody is everybody got the Bibles is all different stories.
Well, Mike, that's what we were talking about, that the Dead Sea Scrolls and the podcast that we were doing earlier. That's where it gets really wild. That's thousands of years old. They found it in a cave in Qumran. They just found these scrolls that has versions of the Bible that never.
You know what? Let me clarify what Joe is saying. He said there's a version of the Bible they'd never seen before. Incorrect. When talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and the interesting about that was, as he said, they were so old. So all the manuscripts we have from the first century after Christ died, the first 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, we have manuscripts. So we have written recordings and collections of manuscripts from all throughout the different centuries leading up to the present. So when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, there were already manuscripts. Then the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, like he said, in a cave somewhere, and it had portions of the Bible that predated all the other manuscripts we had. So if we had manuscripts from after Christ died around the year 100, 200, the Dead Sea Scrolls predated all that, and it just confirmed. He said, oh, it's a version of the Bible we've never seen before. No, it's a collection of writings and recordings on a scroll that were never seen before. It's the same writings, virtually word for word, that predated what we already had. So all that is you're literally traveling further back in time and saying, oh yeah, they had this then too. Wow. Great point Joe brought up. Dead Sea Scrolls.
Seen before.
Well, Constantine, he said, hey, you could put that in the Bible. No, you can't put that in the Bible.
Yeah.
Remember, like 300 AD or BC?
Whatever the New Testament was, whenever they
he
did
brought
that,
all the religious people, said, no, you can't put that in the Bible. Yeah, you can put that. No, not that. Well, maybe that. Yeah, that's okay, but take that out.
The thing is,
again, we have a massive failure on the part of Mike Tyson talking about that's a myth, talking about the collection of the Bible, and basically was selecting and choosing what they thought should go in the Bible. The Bible was a collection of writings that they basically said, we have all of these manuscripts from all throughout the centuries up until that time around Constantine, and whatever was considered extra biblical, meaning it didn't line up and it was like a deviation from all the other collections and solid collections of consistency throughout the centuries that led the Christian church. Whatever was deemed inconsistent and not in line with all the other manuscripts, that wasn't considered biblical. I'm going to put out a video. I have an amazing video from a theologian, a professor who is probably one of the most well-known and well-spoken individuals and experts on this topic. I already have the video ready to unpack. I might have actually completed it, just haven't posted it yet. So maybe I'll make that on the next post. So look out for that. It'll be a direct response, and it'll blow a hole right in what Mike Tyson said. That's just it's like the game telephone. You pass something down the line, and these people just repeat whatever they were told. So unless you actually know the history, you shouldn't be speaking on it so confidently. I understand it's just, it's like a common myth, but it is a myth. And like I said, we have the collection of manuscripts and recordings from the churches throughout century after century after century, just verifying what is considered Christian doctrine and part of the Bible and the sacred writings.
It's like, for sure, man had a hand in it, but when you go back and read, like, what were they trying to say? Like, what was when it was written in ancient Hebrew and then they translated it into Latin, they translated it into Greek. Like, when it was in ancient Hebrew, like, what were they trying to say? What was this? What were you writing
what
down?
they're saying right now, what preachers are saying right now, surrender to God. Regardless of who it is, surrender to God. That's what they're saying. That's what it's ever been since the beginning of time. Surrender to God. Since the beginning of Let There Be Light, surrender to God.
That is correct. Surrender to God. Man is obviously a mortal being. We all die, and we're so finite in our understanding, in our thinking. One of the things Joe Rogan likes to talk about a lot is science. He wants everything. He wants an answer for everything from a guy in a white trench coat, who calls himself a scientist, who in a few years from now will be dead anyway. But we have made great advances through technology and science and everything like that. But he wants basically everything has to consist of, I guess, some verified scientific whatever. Science always changes. Obviously, they add planets to the solar system. Prior to us having certain telescopes and magnification to look into space, we thought space was, a certain distance out, and then we realized there's just galaxy upon galaxy upon galaxy. I can go on and on about how science changes, and Mike Tyson said, it all, since the beginning of time, it all points to the fact that, we need to surrender to God. And that is so true. That is actually the one accurate thing I could get on board with them saying. And it's just man in his pride and in his foolishness thinks who he is. Think about it. The strongest man, whoever thinks he's the strongest man, can be dead tomorrow. Whoever thinks he's the wisest man can meet his match the next day. Like I mentioned earlier, we're mortal beings. And the fact of the matter is we do have a soul and spirit that will live on. Where they'll live is the big difference. Though our bodies might be mortal bodies, we will live forever, eternally. That's why the gospel is eternal life forever with Christ. We will not be worm food. That much I can guarantee you.